If you have asked me if I have ever watched a Malayalam film over a year ago, I would have been like, no, like, what is that? But today, that has all changed. Welcome to the Pan India project. My name is Rohan, aka the Indian Cinema Junkie. And for today's episode, episode 20, I'm debriefing, I'm unpacking my journey into Malayalam cinema. And it's just me today and you. So let's get started. So, where did my journey with Malayalam cinema all begin? Well, it was really and truly since I did become the Indian cinema junkie, and I would say a couple of months in, because I started this whole Indian cinema junkie thing end of January last year. And then the first Malayalam film I watched was actually Ajutivam, The Goat Life, starring Prithviraj Sukumaran. And I believe I found out about this through someone on TikTok. It was just through a comment like, you should go and check The Goat Life out. And so I did. So with the film itself, you definitely need patience with it. I mean, it's a slow burner pretty much, but the journey we see Prithviraj go from this like deserted person, right? Finding his way back home, essentially. That's what the film's about. He gets left in the desert and you have to see him like survive for himself and try and get out. So that journey was literally like incredible, and shout out to Prithvi Raj for playing this role. But that was the first Malayalam film I would say I watched, and it was at the cinema. Now, later on in the journey, the second film I watched was Avesham, and I think again this was through a comment on TikTok. Like before, I didn't have I wouldn't go looking for Malayalam film, if you know what I mean. Before, like, it was always like Bollywood, Tamil, and whatever, right? Before, but Avisham was the next film. Went to watch it in cinema, and it was good. It was just like a wacky, over the top film, right? And I think with this film, I do need to rewatch it because it was good, but I just don't think it was amazing. But if I watch it again, maybe I'll have a different take. So I definitely do want to watch it again eventually. Then one day at home, I watched Manjimel Boys. Now, this was a good film. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but it is based on true events, right? Now, is it Guna Caves? So this film was this film was good. I do think Lapita Ladies was good, don't get me wrong, but I think this could have been the entry into the Oscars like from last year, just because it was good. The way they had to get the guy, one of their friends, out of the cave was just like really good. And the end scene, right, where the rescuer sees the family or whatever, that scene was emotional, and I definitely recommend this film. So Manjimal Boys was film number 3. Now, there was a gap in terms of Malayalam films I watched. So it was not until the end of November that I ended up watching another Malayalam film, which was Suksmadarshini. Now, what do I tell you about this film? I mean, I watched this one in the cinemas and it was definitely worth it. I mean, this film was amazing. I mean, it kept me on my toes from literally start to finish, because with this film, you're wondering what is going to happen throughout, because through the first 20 to 30 minutes or so, you don't really know what's happening. It's a bit lighthearted. Everyone's a bit happy and whatever. But when you get into this film, that is when it gets real. Like, it was just amazing. And there's one scene in the second half of this film, right at the end, spoiler alert for this one, where Nazariam is driving the car and Basil Joseph just gets on top of the car and just smashing through, and he drives her into the shop and the glass basically smashed. That was literally peak in that film. And even with this film, the way they tie in the social message, another spoiler, the whole homosexuality concept, that was really good as well at the end. So overall, this through and through was a brilliant film. And I actually went on someone else's podcast called Suno Bollywood by Rix. So definitely check that episode out. And at the end of the year, the final Malayalam film I watched in 2024 was Marco. Now, this was violent. I mean, everyone can agree on that, right? Like, for me, this was the most violent film within Indian cinema. Just some of the stuff that they would do, and even when we get to the end, what he does, I'm not going to explain it here, but just, you wouldn't expect that from Indian cinema. But I actually really enjoyed this film. Like, I went to the cinema was packed, And I just think it was a good cinema experience, like packed cinema, just you and the screen. And yeah, I was blown away by this film. Like for me, it was my one of my favorite films of the year. It was joint with Street 2, and then number 3 would be Suksmadarshini. So I only watched 5 Malayalam films back in 2024, and they were all different, right? Each one was unique in its own way. Violence, drama, comedy, mystery. You know, they covered pretty much most boxes, right? And then moving to this year, 2025, I've already beaten that score, you know, like I've doubled it already, you know, I've done more than that because 2025 now, let's just talk about where the journey really kicks in with Malayalam cinema, and I started to discover it a lot more now. So I'll just talk about a few films now at the moment. So like one I watched was Mammootty's Garden. Now, first of all, the music in this film, beautiful, like literally goes so well with the film. It's just so beautiful, the music. And I just think with Mammootty's character, which other actor would play a role like that within Indian cinema? Like it will be a rare thing to find like actors to play that sort of role, because the story of this film, right? You see this marriage between Mammootty and Jyotika, and it's in shambles, right? They're gonna get a divorce. She wants a divorce from him, so they're gonna separate. But why? That is the real question of this film. What happened to their relationship? Why was it the way they turned out? You know, and that is the main interesting bit in this film, right? And it was just such a good film. It's simple. It is on Amazon Prime Video, I believe, and it's definitely worth watching. Moving over to one I watched in the cinema this year was Tavino Thomas's Navretta. Now, I think this was the probably the biggest surprise of 2025, just because I don't know if I was expecting it to be like the way it was, if you know what I mean, because when I got into this film, first off, fine, it was okay. And then the second half, that is where the story is. And one epic war scene in this film just, I think, changed everything, right? That whole war scene at the end was just so good. And Tavino Thomas's performance in that scene alone was just brilliant. And he actually does like such a good job in this film throughout the film. So like Navritra and Tavino Thomas's performance was definitely one of the highlights of 2025. And I think his performance alone is definitely up there with one of the best for this year. I mean, it was just amazing. And this film was just about, you know, this guy didn't really have a job. He wanted something better. And then he ends up joining the police force. And then he gets positioned into this like village where there's these tribal people and they're protesting, and we see the conflict between the tribal people and the police. Also, I did watch an old school Mohanlal film. I mean, it's one of his older films called Krishna Lokam, and this was quite good actually. You know, it's just like a decent, good watch. I mean, there's one good song in there as well, and like there's one background music that was good as well. And this I watched on Disney Hotstar, or like just Hotstar basically. And with this, it's about, you know, this like stunt performer on a bike basically, and him and his troupe go to this village, and he meets a girl, and we kind of see how their relationship forms, and the girl's story, like within this film, and what happened to her, and all that. So this was a good watch as well. And I watched Mammootty's Brahmayugam. Now, damn, I mean, first of all, this film is in black and white throughout, so you're gonna have to get over that straight away. But when you watch this, and it is creepy, you know, like depending on your horror tolerance, you might find this a bit scary. I mean, Mammootty's role as this like evil person was good, and it was thrilling. Like you are invested in this room throughout, but just the way they execute it was just like, yeah, really good. And the story is just, so we just see from how I saw it, a guy basically go and visit this house, and he's in need with some shelter. And this is where Mammootty's character comes in, because he takes him in. He's like, okay, you can come in here, and as long as you sing. But then he's not allowed to leave, basically. It's kind of what the premise is of this film. So what can really go wrong here? I mean, I'll let you like figure that one out, but this film was definitely good. And I would recommend this film as well. Now, through all of these films, what did I like about Malayalam cinema? I mean, they keep it simple, right? There's none of this fancy stuff or like over the top. It's simple, it's rooted, which is nice because I mean it can be considered as a breath of fresh air, depending if you've watched Malayalam cinema. Because if you haven't, then definitely it's a breath of fresh air. But I mean, if you're an expert, then you know what to expect, right? And also, in terms of music, the music is played out on another simpler tone as well. Like, there's no item songs really. Okay, there's one in Lucifer, but that is about it that I've seen. Like, they don't need to rely on the so-called dance numbers, the item songs for the film to be a success. They literally focus on the content itself and make the story like compelling, thrilling, and keep you focused on the story. I mean, these films don't really need the music. And like I mentioned, like literally with Malayalam cinema, it is purely from a content point of view that they deliver. So when you go and watch one, or if you've never watched one, don't expect these item songs, these dance numbers, these big over the top entrances. Okay, there's one film, Lucifer, which is a bit more masala based, but just if you've never watched one, don't expect all the fancy stuff you see from like Tamil cinema, Telugu cinema, Bollywood, because that's what Malayalam cinema isn't. And that's fine because it's good to have this, and you can be proud of this and say this is what Malayalam cinema is. Like, it's not like everything else. And the rest of Indian cinema can learn from this, like how to deliver a story without all the fancy stuff. And Malayalam cinema just know how to tie in a social message to the film really well. I mean, Suksmadarshini, Gartel, they just know how to do it so well. And I guess maybe it's not the main story of the film, but okay, that's what the film's about, let's say, and then let's create the film on that. So it's not in your face, like they're not shoving the message down in your face. Like, you will find out, okay, this is what this is about. It's fine. Like, they don't dumb it down basically, which is good. And in 2025, if you are looking for one industry to watch, Malayalam cinema is definitely the one, and it's definitely the place to be. Like, start watching Malayalam cinema now, and I'm sure you will enjoy it. But yeah, I mean, because even going back to 2024, I think, okay, I only saw 5 films, but in terms of a content aspect, they definitely delivered the best content. And I'm just trying to think, in 2025, I think, yeah, they have delivered the best content as well, in 2025. I mean, you've had films like Dodarom and Empuran, 2 Mohanlal films, but for me, 2 amazing films. I mean, he's clearly operating on a different level, Mohanlal is. 2 blockbusters, essentially. 2 great films in the space of, a month? Not even, yeah, a month, right? So for that guy, for Mohanlal to do that is just amazing. I mean, you've had like Bazooka was okay earlier this year, Mammootty film. What else was there? Navritra, I mentioned. Even Tavina Thomas had another film at the beginning of the year called Identity, which was good as well. But is there anything I would want to change from Malayalam cinema? The answer is no, really. I would just say, just for an audience perspective, just jump on this bandwagon now. Like, just start watching it now. But I do have a request to the rest of Indian cinema and the other industries. Just stop remaking Malayalam films, right? I mean, okay, Drishyam was kind of the pivotal point for remakes, Hindi, Telugu, and Tamil, right? I think Kamal Hassan was in the Tamil one, correct me if I'm wrong, and Venkatesh was in the Telugu, and the Hindi one was Ajay Devgan. Now, I've seen the Hindi one, and was it a couple of weeks ago, I actually decided to watch the Mohanlal one, and not going to lie, I think the Hindi one ruined the Malayalam one for me, because I think it was decent, don't get me wrong, Drishyam was decent, but I just didn't love it, or like, I was blown away compared to how other people would watch it. But I do need to give this film definitely a second chance, and I don't know, I just need to get that aspect out of my mind and like not compare it to the Hindi one, because going into that film, I knew what was going to happen, like from start to finish pretty much. Like, when the Hindi one first came out, I think, yeah, that is when I watched number 1, and I think I did watch it in the cinema as well. So obviously with remakes, it ruins it because I know what to expect. So it did ruin it for me, which was a shame. So I will give it a second chance. Definitely, definitely give it a second chance. And is there anything Malayalam cinema can do better? I'm just trying to think. No, but I just think it just needs to be, well, put on the map a bit more. Like, start promoting it a bit more is the only thing I say. I mean, eventually people will find out about it, like me. I mean, I've discovered it now, but I mean, it's not about me, but you know what I mean. But I think people should just start watching it now. I mean, how many? I've just mentioned that like what, twice before, but it's just one of those things, right? Like you if you start watching Indian cinema, and I did mention it in the last podcast as well, but Chat GPT gave me this quote, and it was basically Bollywood is your gateway to Indian cinema. Malayalam cinema is your graduation, and that is pretty accurate. I mean, that's how I've kind of actually discovered Indian cinema. Started with Bollywood, and Malayalam cinema is kind of where I am now. So yeah, I mean, there's not much you would change really, I don't think. But is there anything you would change as like an audience or a fan of Malayalam cinema? Let me know in the comments. Now let's talk about some of my favorite Malayalam films. Now, do you know what? Let's do this no particular order. And going forward, there will now be spoilers ahead. So I'm gonna take it all the way back to 1988. Now, there was this film that Mammootty did. The film is called Oru CBI Diary Gurupu. Now, I might have butchered that name, but Mammootty is basically like the CBI officer, right? And he's investigating this murder. But the way they crafted this film was really well done. I mean, it's a film from 1998. And I mean, I was born in 2000. So for people like that was born in the 2000s and stuff, and going back to watch a film from the 1980s might be a bit daunting. You'll be like, is this going to be any good? Like an old school film, it's probably going to be like boring or whatever. All this old school stuff. I ain't going to sit there for how many hours. To be fair, I don't think it's actually a long film. Like, correct me if I'm wrong, but going off the top of my head, is it 2 hours and 10 around that time? But this one is definitely worth watching regardless when you were born, because I actually enjoyed this film and the music just complements this film really well. I think there was one song or whatever, but the background music went really well. Like, it is thrilling. Like, you will be invested like throughout this, because it's a who committed the murder type of film, and it will keep you hooked. But it's just good to see that a film that was made back in the 1980s is still worth watching today. Actually, moving over to another Mammootty film, let's talk about Raja Manikam. Now, this was a good film, and I did like Mammootty's character in this film. He was kind of funny, and the look that he had with, like he wore the long outfit and like the lungi, and that look was brilliant. And this was just like a standard. I mean, you can call it masala film. I mean, it had like music, dance, dance, yeah, music, dance, action, comedy. Like, it had the whole package, right? And it was just a good film to watch for me. And what else have I watched? Well, I watched Tudaram earlier this year, and honestly, I could probably spend this time talking about how great that film is. I have done a podcast episode on it, so make sure to check that out as well. But I would say since KGF 1 came out, which was back in 2018, there has not been a film that good for me. Like, that's come out. Like, this was just amazing. Like, from the first half to the second half, just pure brilliance. And Mohanlal's performance in that film was literally 10 out of 10. Like, you cannot fault it. And he probably can win the Best Actor award this year. Like, he's definitely probably the top one for that award. Yeah, and this film is definitely worth watching. And another Mohanlal movie that I watched and I loved this year, L2 Emperor. Now, the cinema experience for this film was amazing. Now, there's two parts. So from now on, there's all gonna be spoilers now going ahead. But when he enters, it was loud. And no, even before that, when the thing goes to L at the first bit, L in the gravestone thing, and it goes L Mohanlal screaming loud, this whole cinema. And let me tell you this, because the show here in the UK was at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So, I mean, who's going at 1 o'clock in the afternoon? I mean, I would go, and there was a whole lot of people that did go first day, first show. There was a premiere showing before that, but yeah. And when in the second half, when he goes to rescue Manju Warrior, and you just see that lungi and the feet walking, that scene was mental. The roof could have come off the cinema, you know. Like through and through, Mohanlal has delivered the best two films of the year so far. So those are some films that I've watched of Mohanlal and like Mammootty as well. I've watched I've watched more than two of each, but those were two of each actor I've watched. I mean, I have got Letterbox now, and I have my Letterbox here, but I've just like I have got the films. Well, I've started to log it. So like for Mammootty, I watched Gartul. I mentioned it earlier, brilliant film. I also watched Unda. Now, this was actually a good film as well. You know, a group of policemen go to another village due to elections, and it's quite interesting because they speak Malayali, and where they go, correct me if I'm wrong, is it Tamil or Hindi, the dialect to where they go? So obviously that whole language barrier there to overcome, that was like good. And the ending fight scene, that was good. And when Mammootty gets involved with the action, yeah, that was really well done as well. Also, I watched Parambu as well. That was a nice film, you know, like the relationship with Mammootty and his daughter. So that was a nice film. Rajamanikam I mentioned, Brahmayugam I mentioned, Vishnalokam, uh, Oru CBI Diary Kurupu, and then I also watched Rapikul. Now with this film, it was a nice film. Don't get me wrong, but for me, see, I like my entertainment. I like my masala. I like my action. And if you can keep me on my toes throughout the film, like you've won me over. But with this film, it's not my go-to style of film. That whole family emotion kind of thing. Like it was good. I mean, it had a nice story. Don't get me wrong, but it's just not my cup of tea. Is all I'll say. Also, actually, I've also watched Dominic's and the Lady's Purse and Bazooka from like Mammootty's filmography. So I have watched, I would say, quite a few. Like a few. It's like what, a small amount, but out of his filmography, like Bazooka, going even on to Bazooka, that was decent. But it was just the ending that kind of saved the film. And Dominic and Detective First, that was decent as well. But once again, the ending, I don't know if that's a trend, maybe with Mammootty films or with Malayalam cinema. The ending of each film just is most of the time better than the rest of the film. And maybe you have to look at Malayalam films in the sense that, okay, it's not first half and second half, it's one whole film, and they just add the intermission in a bit that makes sense in the film. Probably that's what I'm going for. I don't know how you all feel about that, but I don't know if you can look at a Malayalam film in the point of first half and second half. I think you have to look at it through, like, you know, one whole film basically. Now, even with like Mohanlal, right, like even like more films I haven't mentioned that I've watched of his, it's like Spadikan. Now, how I describe this film is, this is the OG Animal, and if you've watched both, you'll exactly know what I mean. Like, this is how Animal should have been, because Animal was okay, you know, but this was way better, and the relationship between father and son in Spider-Man was done really well. Like, this was definitely worth watching, and I would say if you've watched Animal, definitely go back to watch Spider-Man, because you'll realize this is how Animal should have been, you know? I mentioned Dirisham. I did watch Bully Morgan as well. I mean, it was alright. It was not the best, but it was just one that I decided to watch. I mean, Mohanlal's done films like, I watched a Telugu one of his called Janata Garage with Junior NTR. That was actually really good as well. But now, here's a big question, right? In Malayalam cinema, are you team Mammootty or are you team Mohanlal? This is a question for all of you. So let me know in the comments. But if I had to pick one, see, it is a bit of a tricky one. I can't lie, because I feel like Mohanlal's films on an entertainment value are better for me, but as a film itself and the content, I think Mammootty's films are better. So hard, but if I had to pick which actor I'm drawn to more, I think it is Mammootty. But is it close? I think it is close. Don't get me wrong. I mean, both are like good as well, right? But I think I am drawn a a bit more to Mammootty. But yeah, both are definitely worth like films watching. Yeah, 100%. Um, but yeah, I it's hard, but Also, you can like enlighten me as well. Is this Mohanlal and Mammootty like debate a big thing within Malayalam cinema, or am I just like trying to like just like say stuff? Do you know what I mean? Like, does it create a divide between fans? Like, if you saw a Mammootty fan and you are a Mohanlal fan, like, would you like be like, hey, or would you start causing a debate like, oh, he's better because of this one or this one? But you know what? Everyone has their favorites, and it's all chill, right? Now, in terms of what films I'm looking forward to next, now there is one that I'm actually looking forward to, and this one is called, is it Chacha Pacha, The Ring of Rowdies? Now, okay, it's an Indian film, but the reason why I'm looking forward to this because it's going to be a WWE based film. I mean, that's never been done in Indian cinema, right? From what I know, and I'm a WWE fan. Like WWE has been in my blood since I was a kid. I've literally grown up on it. That was like that, and Indian films were my bread and butter when I was a kid, pretty much. So to see a WWE based film within Indian cinema, it's going to be so interesting. And I mean, Malayalam cinema are doing it, so that the story is going to be somewhat decent as well. So it's just going to be really interesting to see, because for me as a fan of WWE, the most important part is the wrestling in this film. So fingers crossed, and hopefully they can actually like nail it with this film, because I will be in the cinema for this film, definitely. Like, this is one film I will definitely watch when it comes out. And if they deliver with the wrestling and the entertainment, oh my god, this can be something special. Like, yeah, I'm looking forward to this one. I mean, yeah, definitely this one. Also, Mohanlal, correct me if I'm not wrong, he's got another two films this year. So that gives him a total of 4 films in one year. Like hats off to him, man. The first film, I believe, is called, is it Hridyapuram? And the second one is it Rishubra? Now, Rishubra, correct me if I'm wrong. Like, I've butchered that, guys, 100%, right? But that's coming out in October, right? So can he actually knock off four blockbuster movies in one year? I mean, has any actor? I'm just trying to think. Like, has some? I actually don't like back to back 4 in one year. Like, this man is gonna be on Mount Rushmore one day. Like. Oh, actually, go talking about Mount Rushmore. I got a question for you. Who is your Mount Rushmore of Malayalam cinema? Let me know. But yeah, Mohanlal has what 2 more films. So if they deliver this, it's gonna be special. So let's see. I mean, I'm gonna be in India in October. So if Rishubra releases, and I'm gonna make sure that I'm in Kerala when that film comes out, because I will definitely be there for that film in Kerala to watch it. Fingers crossed, I get a ticket. First day, first show. And if anyone has cinema recommendations, preferably with English subtitles in like Kerala or any other state in India, please let me know. So those are 2 Mohanlal films. Whoops. Oh, sorry, guys. So those are 2 Mohanlal films coming up. Then Mammootty's also got one film, right? Which is Kalam Kaval. And in one of the posters, he's got that cigarette, right? And he's, if I'm, correct me if I'm wrong, right? But so this one, I don't know what's the story with this one. So is he gonna be a cop, or is he gonna be the villain in this? Because if we get another Mammootty villain role and it's like Brahma Yugam, yeah, take my money. I'm sold. But those are some upcoming films. And what's next? I'm just like, for my cinema Malayalam journey, if anyone has got any recommendations, please let me know. But I'm definitely going to give Drishyam another chance. 100%. I'm going to watch Drishyam too, obviously. Now, there is Mani Chitrataram, but on Prime Video, there's no English subtitles. So, and also one film that's re-releasing here in the UK on Friday in Cineworld. Like, other cinemas have had it, but this Friday in Cineworld, Chota Mumbai is re-releasing. I actually can't wait for this. Like, I've seen the videos on Instagram you lot are posting, of the reels. of the cinema experience. I've seen them. I've seen what the vibe is like in that film. It's not a concert, it's a festival. So if we can turn up in that cinema on the Friday and dance, sing, whatever, that is amazing, actually. Like, I'm actually looking forward to that. Actually, you know what? I haven't actually told no one, but I watch Malayalam films, but I'm actually Gujarati. I don't know if that's worth saying or not, but yeah. But Chota Mumbai, yeah, I can't wait for this. Like the Instagram reels, like should sell it to people, And fingers crossed, it's a packed cinema. It's a loud cinema. And would there be any other Malayalam films that should re-release? I mean, definitely re-release a few Mohanlal ones. Like maybe Drishyam could be one, and like just some that we haven't gotten to see. Right? That would be good, you know. But that's where I'm gonna go. Watch more Malayalam films. See what's out there. Mammootty films, Mohanlal films, others as well, obviously. But you know, just see where Malayalam cinema is.